checking it. I got to make sure I got the date because you know how good I am with this, right? All right, we're recording. All right, you guys ready? All right, today is Wednesday, June 7th, 2023, and this is my little Bible study. And we are continuing with our line-by-line, verse-by-verse study of the book of Genesis. All right, everybody should know where we're at. Now, we just had a format change, so now we're going to stay in Genesis until we're done with Genesis, and then we'll go back to Exodus and pick it up, finish up that book till we have all the books out. And besides, that's going to really tie in where we're at. You're going to really get a lot more out of finishing Exodus after we actually finish the book of Genesis. So, But anyway, man, we're getting close. Abraham dies tonight. By the time we hit Jacob, that's where the patriarchs all pick up. And so we're right on with Israel from there. All right. Father, we ask that this open eyes and open ears any place and everywhere. In Jesus' name, amen. All right. Chapter 25 is where we're at. All right, now let's think about last week. Last week, Sarah died, right? Or last time we met, Sarah died. The only thing I can say about Sarah is she must have been one amazingly beautiful woman. Because everybody who comes in contact with her, whether they're a prince or a pauper, just seems to fall in love with this woman at 90 years old, right? Let's remember that. This is with 90 years old. 90. Right? And you got Abimelech, who is a king, who's running around. He wants her. Abraham's lying to save his life because he loves her. So you got a lot of things going on. And this is a woman that was in her 90s when these things were happening. So, then you run into Rebecca, who ends up being Isaac's wife, And apparently she's cut from the same cloth. Everybody who runs into Rebecca seems to fall in love with her. Rebecca, we didn't go over this last week, last time we met. Rebecca means ensnarer, all right? But it's, you could take that in a really negative way. To be ensnared, but it's really not. Rebecca's kind of charisma is just bubbly. Like I said last week, she thinks fast, she moves fast and thinks even faster. She's just one of those kind of people. She's the kind of person that, if you had a really hard, long job to do, she's the kind of person you want to do it with because you don't have to watch her. She's right there next to you working just as hard as you are. And that's a really good characteristic, especially when you find them a mate. If you remember, Eleazar has been sent by Abraham to find Isaac a wife. And he's made him promise, on the seed line itself, by placing the hand under the thigh to make the promise. Made him promise that he is not going to let him take a wife from the land of Canaan. Right? He wants to send Eleazar all the way back to the land of Ur, where Abraham's actually from, to find a wife, because he wants to stay inside of that seed line. It's that same line that he's been protecting since the Garden of Eden, if you remember. All right, and now Abraham's starting to get it. All right, so we have because of that, we have Hagar and Ishmael. It was all tied up in that, all because of it's a different seed line than what it was supposed to be for Israel. But yet, Ishmael still comes out pretty good. So does Hagar in the end. All right, but we passed it. That gets us up now. Sarah died, all right, and we're moving on with what's going on. Listen to what it says here, all right? Chapter 25, verse 1. Then again, Abraham took a wife. A lot of people forget about this woman, all right? Well, we hear about Sarah. And her name was Keturah, all right? Verse 2, and she bare him Zimran, Zokshan, Medan, Midian, all right, Ishbak, and Shihah. All right, now I want to go back to Midian, all right? Now, what did it just say? Midian is the son of Abraham and his second wife, Keturah, or actually third wife. All right, now this is important because back in the book of Exodus where we have Moses already, all right, it is said that Moses' father-in-law, right, his name's Ruel. That's his actual name, all right, but he calls him what was he calling him all the time?
What was it?
I don't believe I'm drawing a blank on this. His name's Ruel, and everybody was calling him by his title, Jethro.
Jethro.
It says that Jethro is a Kenite, all right, but he's a priest of the tribe of Midian. All right, so you can't be a Kenite and still be a priest of Midian when they're from Abraham's seed line, the of his brother. All right. The point is that he's called a Kenite there because he's living in the geographical location of their territory. They know who these people are. All right. So that's why he's referred to as a Kenite, because he's geographically It's his location. It's like this. It's like this happens in the Bible a lot. And if you don't really pay attention, all right, these people start making up different. They get the wrong idea about who's who. All right, so you really have to pay attention. But I don't want. That's a whole other subject. Let's just go and get on to this. But just remember, Midian was one of those. That's because Moses' father-in-law comes out of. But nonetheless, verse 3, and Jokshan begat Sheba and Dedan. The sons of Dedan were Ashram, Letshim, and Leumim. Boy, I really love these names. And the sons of Midian are Ephah, Epher, Hanok, Ababda, Elda, and these are the children of Keturah. So these are all the seed line that comes through Abraham's third wife, Keturah, actually. She's called her second wife because they don't recognize, Ishmael's mother is an actual wife, but she meets every criteria, and the Bible actually calls her his wife. So, and you go back and read it again, but he actually does. So that makes Keturah actually his third wife. And Abraham gave all he had unto Isaac, just like he said he was going to. Abraham's a rich man. Everybody who sees Abraham's almost envious of him because he's blessed of God so greatly, and it shows so evidence in his wealth. But Abraham leaves it all to Isaac. But listen to this. But unto the sons of the concubines, so he apparently had some other women. The sons of the concubines which Abraham had, Abraham gave gifts and sent them away from Isaac his son, while he yet lived, eastward unto the east country. So he sent all them out. All right. So they didn't go in. It wasn't like Ishmael and his wife, his mother. They went out. All they had was water and bread.
Yeah.
All right. He sent these people out packing with some stuff.
Rich.
All right. Now, if you think back to that, Abraham believed. He believed enough that he was willing to sacrifice Isaac, but God said, and he'd already told him that, hey, don't worry about it. I'm going to make a nation out of this boy. You ain't got to sweat that. So that may have a lot to do with why Abraham sent them out with symbolically just bread and water. But either way, it worked out pretty good. Look what it turned into. All right. Nonetheless, verse 6. But into the son, well, we already did that. All right, verse 7. That's right. These are the days of the years of Abraham's life, which he lived 100, 15, and 15 years. That's 175 years. So he, just like God had promised him, he told him, Abraham, you're going to die an old man. Boy, he wasn't kidding, was he? Sarah herself, what, 127? So yeah, 25, 27 when she died. So she did pretty good too. All right.
Yeah, you don't hear about women living that long, though.
That and Sarah's the only one that I know of in the Bible. The entire Bible where it states her actual age when she dies. A lot of men, their age is given, but it's the only woman by name that their age is actually given. That I know of. There may be an exception, but then Abraham gave up the ghost and died in a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered in his people in return. And his son Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah. Remember the cave that he insisted on paying for? That's right. Yeah, now here he's buried with her, right? And his son Isaac and Ishmael buried him. That's important too. Is there any problem between Isaac and Ishmael here? No, two sons. Ishmael's sent away, but yet when his father dies and push comes to shove, him and Isaac bury the hatchet and get along. All right. Now I think that's real important. I think it applies a lot today, considering this is the Saudi princesses who we're talking about when we're talking about Ishmael's descendants. That's who the promise was made to. All right. Yeah, if you look at current events right now, Israel, the little Israel, the one we see in the Middle East right now, is currently in negotiations to sign a peace treaty with Saudi Arabia. This is a big deal because they're all part of the Arab League. All right, so that's going to make some interesting bedfellows right there in the Middle East. It's just mind-blowing what's actually going on. Yeah, you don't hear a lot about it in American media. You kind of got to look out and get online and find out what's really going on. But yeah, it's really interesting what's going on. Verse 10. And the field which Abraham purchased of the sons of Heth, there was Abraham buried, and Sarah his wife. And it came to pass after the death of Abraham that God blessed his son Isaac. And Isaac dwelt by the well of Lahairah, which means the well of the living one. All right. So Abraham, he digs a well and he calls it Bathsheba, right? This is the well of the oath. And it's the oath that him and Abimelech took, to maintain peace, right? Well, here we have Isaac, his son. He's moved on. He's no longer dwelling at the well of the oath. Now he's moved on to the well of the living one itself. So you kind of see what's going on. Because like you said, it's in Isaac that the seed would be called, right? All right. So here you start to see the promise begin to build just in the well that they're associated with. Now remember, Abraham dug a lot of wells. I doubt Abraham dug any of them with his own hand. He was a rich man, but he paid a lot of people to do a lot of work. And some of these well Abraham was, I think it was 9 feet across and 75 feet deep. Yeah, that's a pretty rough place to dig a well too, that deep. And that was just one of many. There's at least 12 wells that I know of that Abraham's are credited with, and at least a handful of them, they still know where they are to this day. So it really is kind of interesting when you look at it. Nonetheless, verse 12. And now these are the generations of Ishmael, all right? So we went back to Ishmael again. Now remember, this is the first son of Abraham, one through through Sarah's handmaid, right? All right, so we're back to him. Now these are the generations of Ishmael, Abraham's son, who Hagar, the Egyptian, Sarah's handmaid, bare to Abraham. And these are the names of the sons of Ishmael by their names according to their generations. The firstborn of Ishmael, Nebajoth, and Kedar, and Adbeel, and Mibsam, and Mishma, and Duma, and Massa, Hadar, and Tema, and Jutu. I think that was how you would say something like that. And Nepesh, Kedema. These are the sons of Ishmael. These are their names by their towns, by their castles, 12 princes according to their nations, all right? So they're the kings of the east. Remember, he said all those kids with the concubines went toward where Ishmael was. These are all the same group of people, the kings of the east. All right, and that's the Middle East is what we're talking about, okay? So know who these people actually are that we're here, because there's some current players in the last days in the book of Revelation. All right, there's big chess pieces on the move right now as we speak. Now, man, he gets 12 princes. Think about that. That sounds a lot like the promise made to Isaac, or we're going to find out. All right, because he has 12 princes too. Now, the only difference is the scope is much greater when it comes to Israel versus when it comes to the 12 princes through Ishmael. All right, but that's about the biggest difference because he promised them to prosper no matter what. Verse 18, and the way they dwell from Havilah to Sharu, that is before Egypt, as thou goest toward Assyria, and he died in the presence of all of his brethren. All right, so now we have Ishmael and his people established with his princes, just according to the promise that God made to him and his mother. All right. Now Hagar, and one of the important things about Hagar is she's the only woman in the Bible that her seed line, not her son, it was her seed line that God promised her to prosper. All right, so don't forget about them women, because they're out there too. All right, now Ishmael had his bunch, but he was talking to her, and you don't ever hear about that. All right. So that kind of finishes up now with Ishmael. All right, now they're in the places that they need to be, and now just leave them alone and let them grow and become a multitudinous people, just like he promised, right? Now 19, and these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. And so far, that's the longest lineage yet, right? And Isaac was 40 years old when he took Rebekah to wife. Now think about that. He's 40 years old and he's not had a mate yet. And Rebekah is the first wife that he's spoken of anyway. And you remember how far they went out of the way last week to get Rebekah. And there was a lot of stuff going on picking her out. And,
Cousins.
yeah, right. And they fall right into exactly what he said. Don't not a came from my people, and here it was Abraham's brother, right to him. All right. And they took the daughter took to wife. The daughter of Bethuel, the Syrian, Pandamaram, and his sister Laban, the Syrian. Again, here's another one of those places. All right, we've already studied who Laban is. He's a part of Abraham's genealogy through his brother's side. All Right? But here he's called the Syrian. Him and his sister Rebekah, the one that's going to marry Isaac. All right? But yet, their lineage has nothing to do with the fact that they're called Syrian. They're called Syrian because that's where they're living, is in Syria. It's much like this, all right? I'm from Arkansas. And back when I was a kid, we were called Arkies. All right? But you go just a few miles into Oklahoma, which I did when I was a kid, and I moved there and you'll call me an Okie. All right? Now, whether I'm in Arkansas or whether I'm in Oklahoma, an Arkie or an Okie has nothing to do with the fact that I'm Irish. And my people come from Ireland. All right? And that's exactly what we're talking about here. He's called the Syrian. Him and the sister are called Syrian because they're in Syria.
Just in Syria.
But they're out of Abraham. They're actually from Ur, out of Abraham's brother. All right? So we're talking about that Adamic lineage and it was established way back in the beginning. All right? That's just something you got to put. Now, it's always important to keep that in mind. So when you're reading and you hear somebody named, all right, well, is this a genealogy or is this a geographical location? Is it a reference to geographical location or genealogy? And that just kind of keep who's who and how it goes and just kind of straight, all right? 21. And Isaac entreated the Lord for his wife. Well, what's going on here? Because she was barren. So here we got another woman considered to be by all who see her one of the most beautiful creatures ever to come into existence, just like Sarah, and just like Sarah again, she can't have kids. Okay, it seems to be a common thread here. Okay? And the point is that Israel is going to come into existence according to God's will, not according to man's will. Okay? And I think that's really the point of these barren women, is to say that this whole thing.
When it's time.
That's right. That's exactly right. That's right. When it's time, then it's time. All right? And there's big lessons in that. All right. Ooh, excuse me. And the Lord was entreated for him, and Rebekah, his wife, conceived. All right, so it works. So if you don't ever think your prayers are legit, God hears your prayers, well, just listen to what you just happened here, all right? Same thing with Sarah, too.
2 women.
Yeah, right, in a row, right. So he does. He listens very intently. All right. Verse 22, and the children struggled together within her. All right, wait a minute. Children struggled together. There's 2 of them, right? This is Sarah. They struggled together within her, and she said, if it be so, why am I thus? I said, what is going on here? And she went to inquire of the Lord. You got a question? Go ask God yourself. You got a prayer? Take it to him yourself. All right? Don't wait for somebody else. You don't need no help. That price has been paid. All right? So take it to him. And it's exactly what she did. And the Lord said unto her, 2 nations, now listen to this very closely. 2 nations are in thy womb. Does it say 2 kids? No, 2 nations. All right? 2 nations are in thy womb, and 2 manner of people shall be separated from thy bowels. All right, so you got 2 brothers, but by golly, they're 2 different people altogether. They have different appetites, they have different opinions, all right? They have different desires. And the one people shall be stronger than the other people, and the elder shall serve the younger. Now, the elder serving the younger, that goes way against tradition. Matter of fact, the elder, he gets the right of the firstborn. He gets a double portion. But here, this double portion is being removed and being given to the younger brother. All right, this is what it says. And when her days were to be delivered were fulfilled, behold, there were twins in her womb. And the first came out red. Hold on to that red. All over like a hairy garment. And they called his name Esau, because that's what Esau means. All right. And then after that came his brother out. And his hand took hold of Esau's heel. And his name was called Jacob, which means heel catcher. All right. And Isaac was 80 years old when she bare them. All right. So let's review this now just a little bit. All right. 2 nations. Okay, one of them we need to name is going to be out of Jacob, right? Oh, wait. I was like, who is here? All right. Said you got 2 nations in your womb, all right? And they're fighting with each other. Even before they're born, these people are fighting. In her womb, they're flipping and flopping, and she's wondering, what is going on in here? All right, so when she asked God what's the deal, he says, girl, you got 2 nations in your womb, all right? They're different people. and they're going to fight continually, and we still do. All right, so one of them's Israel. Jacob, he's patriarch prime. He's the father for every patriarch of the tribe of Israel. All right, across 4 women, all right, 12 sons and 1 daughter. Whew, that's a lot of big brothers. All right, all living in one household. Now we're going to get some stories about them. All right, and it's one of those stories you don't hear a lot in church, all right, because it's just a little bit too real and a bit too hardcore for most people to deal with. All right, we're going to hit it. Just going to get some good. That's one of my favorite. All right, but not yet, but we'll get to it. All right. But nonetheless, you have 2 brothers. One's red, right? Real hairy, different people. These people will be separated. One group will go north into the north country, where they live above a certain parallel, which makes agriculture very difficult. Got to remember, these are agricultural people. Adam was the tiller of the ground. All of his descendants are tillers of the ground. All right. Now that's a pretty big curse to be moved, to be a tiller of the ground, but be given land where it's not fit to till. All right. So that makes these people different and hardcore. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. All right. But you see what my point is. Now listen. And the boys grew, and Esau was a cunning hunter. All right. A man at the field. And Jacob was a plain man which dwelt in tents. All right, now let's work with some of the language a little bit here. Field. All right, this is implying, all right, the fact that Esau's a man of the fields. He's more of a man of the world. Okay, you see kind of the intention? All right. Now Jacob, he's referred to as a plain man, but this is not a good translation on plain. All right. Instead of plain, you should translate this holy or upright. All right? It's not a real good translation. The Strong's, you can check it out with Strong's. It's real easy to do. All right? So he's not saying that he's saying Jacob or Esau is a man of the world, but Jacob is a holy man. Esau lusts after the things of the world, but Jacob lusts after the things of God. Okay, you got the point? The 2 descriptions that are being given of these 2 men. And Isaac loved Esau. All right, so the man himself loves Esau. All right, Esau is as the brother is the firstborn out of that. All right, even though that he knows that the older is going to serve the younger. All right, because God had already said so. And Jacob and Isaac loved Esau. And Isaac loved Esau because he did eat of his venison. All right, but Rebekah loved Jacob. All right, now here we go with another woman. All right, now Rebekah, she's just more cunning than everybody else. Flat out, she could put Sarah probably in her place if you really want to get down with it. All right, and before this is all over, Rebekah's going to have everything to do with who gets the blessing and who gets the birthright. Wasn't some man, it's going to be the mama who's in control, just like Sarah's been through most of this, which is something we've been discovering quite handedly about the Old Testament. These women had a lot bigger role than was traditionally given in church. They had a lot to do with what went on and what happened. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, just like the men. All right? Now, okay, before we get on to the selling of the birthright, I want to go one place, and it's probably going to take most of the time that we have, but hold on a second. I hated. I want to search for a phrase in the Old Testament. Yeah, there it is, Romans chapter 9, verse 13. All right. All right, because we're going to talk about this. All right, go to Romans chapter 9, verse 9, where we're going to pick it up. Now, we're going to read this, and then we're going to go back and find out why God hated Esau, because that's the point here.
What was that verse, chapter?
Chapter
9. 9. You guys get there? All right. All right, we're going to pick it up here because this is the subject we've been talking about. Rebekah, Isaac, all these things with Esau and with Jacob, all right? Now, some people are really surprised to find out that God can hate somebody. Just flat out. And you don't think so, you're going to find out. Then we're going to go back to Genesis to find out why God hates Esau, all right? Because it's very important. And you don't want to make the same mistake is the thing I'm getting at, all right? All right, verse 9 it says, "For this is the word of promise. At this time will I come, and Sarah shall have a son. And if we go back, this is what the angel of the Lord told Sarah. Remember when she laughed, and she didn't even laugh out loud, she laughed inside, and he flat calls her out on it. You laughed when I said you'd have a kid. She said, no, I didn't. He goes, yes, you did. And she's 90 years old. She ain't been able to have a kid for 40 years. And so she kind of giggled when she said, you're gonna have a baby. But she didn't do it out loud. It says it's in her heart is where she laughed. Right, and he still pulls her chain about it. All right. All right, now, so that's who we're talking about. And not only this, but when Rebekah also had conceived by one, even by our father Isaac, for the children being not yet born, all right, so they're still in the womb. Remember where she was talking about where they're flipping and flopping and fighting? All right, the children being not yet born, neither having done any good or evil, all right, that the purpose of God according to election might stand, not of works, but of him that calleth. Now there is a lot more in this than you can.
I got it. Right.
Lot, yeah, I know you catch it. You caught it right in the head.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, there's a lot going on here. Now I don't know if you guys are going to get this. I know it gives me goosebumps too. All right. Okay. Okay. Do you guys understand anything? If I say the first heaven and earth age, does that mean anything to you? Okay. It's most people don't understand. Okay. 2 Peter chapter 3 is dedicated to three heaven and earth ages. There was an age before this one. It was an angelic age. Right? Lucifer rebelled, and it was destroyed. And now all the children are now born in the flesh, just like we are right now. All right? Well, it's punishment. There's more of a way to learn.
Yeah, it's more to learn on
So we learn, all right? Now, this is all about that, what he's just saying. Now, he's saying these boys are in this womb. All right, and they're going to be enemies from the very beginning, but it's so that you can understand what it means to be part of the election. Okay, now, let's look at election. We know that we've had very good looks at negatives, right? Nebuchadnezzar, Pharaoh, all the ancient gods of Egypt, all these things, right? All these people did horrific things. But yet, God calls these people true servants, right? Pharaoh was called a servant. Nebuchadnezzar is called God's servant. All right? But why? Because they're part of the election, but they're part of the negative side of it. Now, you're going to run into Esau, who's part of the election, just like Jacob is elect. He's part of the election because he's the patriarch prime. He's the father of all the patriarchs. He's got to be in that list somewhere. All right? So is Esau. But Esau's on the negative side. Think about when Christ is deceived, Well, he takes him, turns him over. Told Judas, you got to do what you got to do. All right? Because of Judas, we have Christianity. All right? And he looks right at Judas and tells him, when they did the bread, go do what you got to do.
Yeah, man.
All right, so it had been worked out. They already understood this is what you got to do because these are the things we're here to do. He'd already told them, he said, what am I going to do? Hide from this? This is what I was here for. This is what I was born. All right? As part of the election. All right? Now, Jacob and Esau, back to them. Listen to what it says about this election and all those things, all right? All right, because that's the subject. Verse 12. It was said unto her, the elder shall serve the younger, just like we're talking about. As it is written, Jacob I have loved, but Esau have I hated. All right, now get that. And what did it say? Before they had done any good or any evil, God already made up his mind, I don't like Esau. Okay, before he was ever born. Why? Listen to what it says. All right, verse 14. What shall I say to them? Is there unrighteousness with God? God forbid. And say, what's he saying? Is God messed up because he hates Esau? No. No, he's not. He hates Esau because of what Esau did in the first heaven and earth age. Is why he hates Esau. He's born as a part of the election, but he hates this guy because of what he did. Okay? So let's get back to what it was. All right? So let's stop right there. Now let's go back to where we were. Where were we? 25, yeah, I lost where I was. Here we go, back to the birth of Esau and Jacob. All right. So now I want you to hold on to that. God loves Jacob. Can't stand Esau because of choices that Esau made in the first heaven and earth age. All right, and that's why he was talking about bringing out the election. This boy is going to be born so you can understand what it means.
What it means,
Yeah. So you can see that there's two sides to election. There's a negative side, but there's also a very positive side to it. And of course, you run into them in the book of Revelation, where those that are sealed out of the tribes of Israel, which is exactly what we're studying. Okay, so you see that's a big circle when it runs a full circle. That's why you get goosebumps when you heard that.
It's a giant reflection.
Is it not? I know. It's insane, isn't it? Okay, if you really want to get to understand what we're talking about in depth, okay, on YouTube, you got to get on YouTube. My Little Bible Study, just type in My Little Bible Study in the search on YouTube. No spaces, no capitalization, just one big word. All right, and then go to the book of Genesis. There's Genesis on there, Revelation on there. We got, I don't know how many BEVs, what we call biblical education videos, are on there. All of them are these classes we've done right here. All right, check out the first 2 lectures of the book of Genesis, and that'll get you caught up.
It is a cool.
That'll get you caught up. It's there for free.
History, it's just real cool.
It'll get you caught up on what we're talking about. So then you'll really understand it. And then when you makes all this clicks in your head, you'll get
All
goosebumps
this
too.
come on you. That's the way he was able to reflect stuff.
But that'll help. That'll get you, and then you'll understand. Okay, now I got this. All right, because it's a big circle, and when you really understand it, you feel it. All right. All right. Nonetheless, God's pretty ticked at Esau. Nonetheless, let's just gather it that way. All right. Even though he hadn't been born, hadn't done anything good or anything evil in the second heaven and earth age. But in the first one, he was probably not a good guy. All right. Now let's see what it says about them. And these are we're back at chapter 25, verse 19 in Genesis. And these are the generations of Isaac, Abraham's son. Abraham begot Isaac. We already did that, didn't we? Well, I'll be. There we go. Struggled together. Younger. Oh, there we go. 29. There we go. I knew we were somewhere. There it is. Yes, 29. Okay. And Jacob sawed pottage, and Esau came from the field and was faint. All right. So what's Jacob doing? Jacob's eating sheep, goats, making pottage, just like a good kid. All right. Esau coming from the field, he's hungry. Now remember, there's already been 1 famine, 2 famines, or maybe 2, but there's getting ready to be another one. All right. And that's why Esau can't find anything to eat. Because he's been hunting, and there's famine on the land, and everybody's killed everything. They're about to starve. All right. Verse 30. And Esau said to Jacob, feed me, I pray thee, with the same red pottage, for I am faint. Therefore was his name called Edom. All right. Edom means the red. I mean, or the red nation even. All right. You're going to have Roosh.
Yeah.
The Roosh. Okay. The red nation. It's a soup, all right? These guys are hungry. Okay. Think about the Soviet Union. Think about the old Soviet bloc. It was ran by Russia. All right. Well, Esau is the patriarch for the Russian people. All right. Edom, the red nation. Now, you could go China, but that's outside the wrong ethnic group. All right. So you got Esau, another player in the last days. Pay attention to what's going on in the news. You'll see Russians get their finger in everything, particularly in the Middle East. They got it in everything. They're working hand in hand with China, all around with Iran. It's a big messed up mess, and we are getting ready to enjoy everything that everybody's been waiting for. All right, and it's just a matter of time. All right, but I'm looking at it as a countdown, and don't tell me when, I don't know, but I've never seen anything like what's going on right now. All right. Nonetheless, so we have a big setup here. All right. Now, you hold on to that word Edom, because that's an easy way to check for Esau's people, because they're called the children of Edom. All right. Verse 31, and Jacob said, sell me this day thy birthright. All right, so we got the Holy One telling the man of the world, if you're hungry, I will trade you your birthright as the firstborn, who gets the double portion, for some food. All right, well, listen here. And Esau said, behold, I'm at the point to die. This old boy thinks he's starving to death. Still walking around talking pretty good, though. All right, maybe he just can't deal with a little discomfort. And what profit shall this birthright do to me? Now you're starting to get to the point. If I die of starvation, what good is this promise of God to me? Okay? Now you're getting to the point now why God doesn't like Esau. And Jacob said, swear to me this day. And he swore unto him, and he sold his birthright to Jacob for food. And Jacob gave Esau bread and pottage and lentils, and he did eat and drink and rose up and went his way. Thus Esau despised his birthright. And there's why God hates Esau. Okay? Because Esau, all these promises that Abraham held on to, and that Sarah held on to, and that Isaac was holding on to, and that Rebekah held on to, Esau didn't have nothing to do with any of it.
And he already knew who
Then he knew.
his character
That's
was.
right.
You know what I mean?
Okay, so
The exact same thing he did
Esau,
in the first stage.
he's just going to take a little bit of food. He's going to trade all those promises of God that we've been studying in the book of Genesis for a little bit of food. Okay, now let's look at a little bit of history then. All right, back when I was a kid, let's say 80s, just to kind of date me a little bit. All right, somewhere in there. I remember the big Soviet leader, Gorbachev, I think he was the name, with a big old mark on his forehead, you know, big old birthmark that they made fun of scrubbing off on SNL all the time. Yeah, him. Well, when he came to the United States, what was the first thing he was wanting to talk to Reagan about? You remember what it was? I do. It's food. They needed grain. They were hungry.
Sure, yeah.
All right. So after all this time,
Still hungry.
they're still hungry because Esau despised God's
They're going
birthright.
to Ukraine right now.
That's right.
For food.
For food. Because it's the breadbasket of Europe.
Yeah, man.
All right. Esau's still hungry. Made that trade all these time along,
4,000
long
years
time
ago.
ago,
Yeah,
right? And now these people are still paying the price for it because they live past a certain parallel agriculture. It's pretty much non-existent, or they have a really short growing season. They always need more food. Got resources galore. That don't help you if you're hungry. And Esau even said it. What good does this profit me if I
Can't
die?
do work if you're hungry.
Okay, so, right. So, to think that any of this stuff is lightly taken anywhere is to be a big mistake because you see all these things, all these earmarks, and these people still very, very visible today. All right? Saudi Arabia, let's go back to Saudi Arabia and Ishmael then. We're going to finish up tonight because we're finishing this one right here. We'll be on chapter 26 Sunday. All right? Okay, now I lost my train of thought. What was I talking about? Ishmael, that's right. Ishmael, earmarks for Ishmael. All right. Ishmael, if you go back, just before you guys started coming here, we talked about this. Abraham and Ishmael were circumcised on the same day. Ishmael's 13 years old when it happened. I think Abraham was 99, I think, 99, and Ishmael was 13. All right? When this happened. Now, the people that descend from Ishmael live in the Middle East, yet they're not Jewish, but yet they still circumcise. They're men. They're sons at the age of 13.
Yeah.
All right, and the only ones you get in that group are Saudi Arabia. My dad got online to figure this out. He was like, I got to know, is anybody in the Middle East circumcised other than Jews? And you get just some mullah from Saudi Arabia, oh, we believe in it so much, and this is why, and told this exact story. All right, because their patriarch was circumcised with Abraham when he was 13. So they still continue to do it even in the Middle East, right? Because they understand where they come from. All right, now, it's going to be it for tonight. I know that's a pretty big chunk, but Esau, there's a lot. Then I can do this for 3 or 4 meetings just about Esau and the relationship between him and Jacob. All right, there's quite a bit of stuff about it. But I think that's sufficient anyway for one night. Anyway, that's it. And you guys online, we'll see you later. Let me see. Stop.